Today, in our time together this morning, we're going to look at the Christian faith or religion, if you want to call it that thing, from a wide view. And so we're looking at the Christian religion. I'm a little cautious of the word religion because I've seen folk get involved with religious activity, and all that's happened is there's been backlashes and all kinds of things because religion is no longer considered something to aspire to or for, just because of, I guess, the bad rap that has gone out over the years when it comes to religion. And so we all tend to want to run away from religion, but let's not be frightened of that word. I'm just using it to describe specific things. And so the Christian faith, let me use that terminology. Let's look at it from a wide view, and it'll help us in three ways. One, historical context. We'll be able to see where Christianity fits in the general history of mankind, as we just discussed through this morning. Secondly, understanding by examining some of Christianity's statements. We'll also be able to better understand the claims, teachings, and benefits of the Christian faith. And then, of course, just appreciation would be, for me, a third one, where we need to appreciate what we do have and value what we have when we look at the Christian faith. I'm sure you've seen the news, some of the horrible things that happen, and some of all under the guise of particular religion, and where people are beheaded and tortured and all kinds of terrible things. So we need to have an appreciation for a Christian faith, especially here in the US, where we can worship freely, go to church freely. In many nations, that's not the case. And so we want to be able to make sure we have an appreciation and that we examine this Christian faith properly. So by the time we get to the end of this time this morning, our hope is that you would understand this Christian faith a little bit more, and the things about God. This is our second session about that, actually, and see the value of having a Christian faith in your life specifically. So we know that there are major religions in the world. Christianity isn't the only religion or faith, if you want to call it that. I use the word faith because faith means you're putting your faith in someone, not just a set of criteria, but really in the Christian faith, you're really exercising your faith, particularly in an individual, and not a set, organized, if you want to call it that, set of criteria that has no real entity to it, no being attached to it. It's just sort of out there. So major religions of the world, when we speak of these things, many people think that there are literally thousands of religions all over the world, religious groupings and all kinds of various sizes of people that people believe in various ways. But in actual fact, there are only about a dozen or so organized religions, if you include what we call the primitive religions. That's religions based on tribal interactions and all the superstitions that go with some of those things. That's another whole subject on its own. Maybe we'll get to discuss it one day. But in actual fact, there's just about 12 or so, more or less, recognized religions in the world. So let's just look at that word religion. As I said, we don't want to make this a fearful thing, but let's just discuss what we mean when I say to you religion. So the dictionary defines actually religion as being man's expression of his acknowledgement of the divine. And the Bible writers use the word religion in describing the ceremonies that the Jews did and expressing their faith in various ways. Acts chapter 26 in the Bible, verse 5, talks about some of these ceremonies as well. And so when we talk about religions of the world, we are referring to the different ways mankind has developed to express the idea that there is something or someone than himself that's usually of a higher being or a stronger being or more fearful being, that type of thing here in the world. Christian faith believes that Christianity is not a man-made religion, but rather given to us by God. On the other hand, there are many philosophies and movements that come and go throughout history, sort of which have impacted society, but not necessarily, they weren't necessarily religions. Let me give you two examples. For instance, communism, which was a political and ideological movement. It wasn't a religious movement. And then we get another one, secondly, actually there are three, I think. Second one I'd like to maybe call the New Age movement, which is a conglomerate, a combination of ideas from already existing religions and philosophies, sort of just mashed into this one single overarching statement, the New Age movement, made up of all kinds of various things. And then there's naturalism, which was really an outgrowth of atheism, which tries to explain the world without God. And that can be pretty difficult when you start laying the facts down from our particular Christian faith perspective. So these and others have had influence on the world, but are not considered organized religions as such. So that brings us to then, if we understand what we mean by religion, let's look at secondly then what is organized religions. So in order for something to be a religion, it needs certain kinds of facts to it, features, a basic foundational understanding for it. And so what would be some of those facts in order for it to be a religion or to be recognized as a religion? Well, first of all, its history and its origins. All religions can trace their origins to a place or a person or a specific event. So that's important. Secondly, some kind of concept of deity. That's another factor in identifying a religion. Main features of religions are that they acknowledge the existence of a higher being or a higher power or that kind of thing. Then they will look at it as being a religion of some sort. They also typically all have an organized religion, a concept of mankind. That's to say, a key question that most religions try to answer is, where does mankind come from? And each religion has some kind of an explanation of how mankind came about. Then there is, in many of these religions, salvation. Each of these religions has its own form, fashion, type of or answer to the problems of the human condition, and some offer for a better existence somewhere else, or somehow that's achieved through various kinds of activities that you would be involved with within that religious organization. Then again, another point to make with those that fall in the recognized as a recognized religion would be some sort of worship. Most of these religions provide their own ceremonies and sort of expressions of their faith, and they're done individually or collectively, and we'll just title that worship. There's some kind of worship that goes on. And then organized religions also have their own scriptures. They keep records from their founders, what their founders said, their teachings, their history, the kind of worship they're involved with. So scriptures are typically involved with an organized religion of some sort. And then finally, we could throw in the word geography. That is to say, most religions have a certain country they came from or tribal group where they began and began to flourish, and that's where their influence began to grow and grow more and more until they became a recognized religion within the world. So that's just some pointers to what we mean by organized religion. Now, not every religion exhibits each of these figures or these features, but most of them have a majority in common regarding that. Which then brings us to our third point, having looked at religion, organized religion, and that would be Christianity, our Christian faith. So as we list some things for you. We want you to realize that, of course, the whole discussion of other religions in the world is a massive discussion. Whether it be Shintoism or the Islamic faith, or all these other types of faiths that are out there. And that's really another whole discussion on its own. Maybe we'll get to do it one day, just as an interesting subject to talk about. But bottom line being that there are all of these with these various aspects to it. But our Christian faith tends to be a little different. So let's describe some of this for you and what we mean by that. So we're going to now list for you 3 reasons why Christianity is different, effective, and transformative, and why it's a transformative belief among all religions. It stands apart and separate from almost all other religions. In fact, all other religions do not fall into the kind of category that the Christian faith does as well. So let's look at some of those reasons why we think Christianity is so transformative, different, effective, powerful, and such an enormous impact on the history of mankind. First of all, it has a superior revelation of God. When we talk of God, we're talking about God of the Bible, who's revealed in the Bible. So it has a superior revelation of God, and most religions have very limited view of God as either an impersonal force, a higher power, a kind of superhuman being, someone you don't want to get angry, someone you need to appease, and you just want to stay out of the way kind of thing, and you can't just approach that God. There are only special people at special ways that can approach God, and so they have a very limited view and access, of course, to that particular God that they are worshipping. Christianity reveals that God is pure spirit with a consciousness, will, power, decision-making abilities. He has knowledge, moral force, communicative power. And so Christianity explains what kind of being God is, as well as what He wants from us and for us, which is a lot different to other religions as well. When you talk about a conscious communication that is possible between the human and God. A lot of religions don't have that type of communication unless it's some kind of real super duper high-powered, high-level person who has sole access to that particular God on special occasions, and then comes sort of down the mountain and speaks to the followers. But in the Christian faith, God, you have access to God, the God of the Bible we're talking of. You're able to talk to Him, pray to Him. He's able to express His desire and will for you through what has been recorded in the scriptures of exactly what He said. And so it's a lot different again to other religions where we see that God is a relational God, not just an informational God. Big difference there in terms of our experience of interaction with God. Then, number 2, secondly, Christianity just simply has a superior leader. All other religions have a man or a woman as leaders, prophets, gurus, priests, all those kinds of names you can think of. But Christianity has God Himself as leader in the form of a human being that came to us, Jesus Christ, who was both divine and human, joined in this individual called Jesus Christ. And so in the Christian religion or Christian faith, the leader is always alive and present to direct and encourage his followers in every generation. We find that throughout the scriptures, the Bible, the manual to life, as we like to refer to here, that's available for you and I to actually read what God has said to people, and even read about the eyewitnesses that wrote down exactly as they saw Christ doing various things. They would write these things down, called eyewitnesses. And so that's contained within these scriptures. And of course, Jesus Christ is there encouraging, walking with, by the Holy Spirit, which is a lot different again to other religions where you have this sort of being that is impersonal. You're not to worry him, you're not to interfere with him or her in that case. There's not this continued open conversation and direct relationship that goes on, and an awareness of each and every believer who believes in God. That doesn't exist in other religions. In our Christian faith, God is intimately involved with individuals who believe in him on a daily basis. That's what the whole idea was about. It's why Jesus Christ came, to provide a way back to our Creator. And Jesus said, no one comes to the Father but through me. And he went on to say, I am the truth, the way, and the life. And so the only way to Father is through Jesus Christ, his Son, who's also divine, and he provides a way in which we can have a personal, interactive relationship with God, different to other religions. You can't have a personal, ongoing, daily relationship of guidance, encouragement, love, mercy, grace with that particular God. So it's a lot different to other religions in that regard. And then, of course, number 3, that leads us to this particular point, and that is that our Christian faith offers a superior solution to the problems of humanity. Now, folk, of course, we know that humankind, as we know them to be, put on the television, you'll see what I'm getting at, gets itself regularly into terrible problems, to all kinds of issues and hassles. And so, but God, through the Bible, shows us and offers us a solution, a better kind of answer to the problems we find ourselves in as humanity. Other religions, of course, they offer to solve humanity's problems by imposing religious rules or practices, or some kind of final solution will be there after death, once you've been elevated up the scale and up the ladder as you work at it and that kind of thing. But believing in the faith of the Bible, Christianity does a few things for us. First of all, it identifies the underlying problem causing this human suffering, simply called sin. From the beginning, when man fell and sin entered in, mankind, all of us have been held captive. And so the Bible reveals this underlying condition of sin that has held mankind captive. Then, secondly, Christianity goes ahead and provides a solution right on top of that for this problem. How do you handle this problem of sin that other religions work so hard at trying to elevate themselves through self-sacrifice and all kinds of ways to try and earn some sort of salvation? The Bible provides it very clearly and lays it out for us in a simple way and provides that solution. And then, of course, thirdly, to that, Christianity provides what we call a better hope. It gives us a hope for the future that no other religion can offer. Other religions their offer is, if you work hard enough, if you achieve enough, if you climb the ladder enough, if you evolve enough, then eventually maybe you might just be able to enter that higher plane of existence. Well, the Bible doesn't beat around the bush like that. The Christian faith is quite simple, quite clear, straightforward. There's a problem called sin. God is going to help deal with it, and here's the hope for a future that you could not get any other way but through the Christian faith. So separation from God because of disobedience to God's laws brought in what we call this sin, and it leads to guilt, shame, rebelliousness, death, judgment, condemnation, you name it. It's all there when we break God's laws. God himself takes the responsibility for paying off mankind's moral debt, a debt we could not pay, through the sacrificial death of Jesus Christ. So God steps in. This is the problem that's separating us from God, and he provides a solution in Christ Jesus. But you get to accept it or you get to reject it. You decide as a free moral agent. He's not going to force you or make you. He offers it to you. And so So in Christianity, in our Christian faith, God is doing things for humans that humans cannot do for themselves. He eliminates guilt by eliminating the moral debt caused by the sin. And so in our Christian faith, people do not find salvation sort of based on the ability to practice their religion and observe moral codes and struggle through it, as in the case of most other organized religions. In Christianity, God himself, through Jesus Christ, saves people based on their faith in him, their personal faith in him. And so the practice of their religion and the keeping of moral codes are ongoing expressions of that faith in Christ Jesus, but they are not the dynamic that ultimately saves them. You see, it's a person that brings salvation to us, not a religious system. Big difference there when it comes to the other religions of the world as well. Far Eastern and Eastern religions' best offer is that the individual ceases to be at death or sooner. And all of that then is taken away. Islam and Judaism offer a paradise that is much like here on earth, just a lot better. And so in many respects, this is what primitive religions also offered. Safety here, ideal situations after death, that kind of talk. But our Christian faith offers followers the hope that while they are alive here on earth, they can expect to interact with a God, a conscious God who has a personal identity. They are able to be individuals that commune with God, that brings to them life after death. It has, of course, the Christian faith, the greatest amount of followers. It has the most historical written records than any other faith in the world, religion in the world. It has eyewitness accounts of Jesus Christ's life actually written down. Its positive impact of Christianity is worldwide. There's freedom from guilt and fear, peace of mind, loving relationships with other believers, greater insights into the mind of God as you look within his word. There's spiritual renewal that comes about. And so in addition to all of these kinds of things, our Christian faith can look forward to an afterlife where we are joined with God in an intimate, personal relationship for all eternity. God desires to be with his kids forever. And so he provides a way through to do that. That's why we believe the Christian faith is the way to go when it comes to interacting with a living and vibrant God. In him we believe and him we praise. Well, thank you for joining me in this series on things about God, learning things about God, and do come back next Sunday. And it's been good to be with you here this morning. God bless.